Greetings, this is Dr. Sandra Cabot. I've been a medical doctor for nearly 50 years and I've always had a special interest in the liver. And I've seen a lot of people develop liver problems gradually and they didn't realise that they had a liver problem until it was too late. So it's very important to become liver aware. And I'm going to talk to you about the things to avoid to prevent harming your liver. See, your liver is working hard 24/7 anyway, so we don't want to overload the liver with known or unsuspected hazards, and there's many. Well, let's start with your diet. What are the worst foods and drinks for your liver? Well, I'm talking about excessive amounts. I mean, occasional treats here and there, not a problem, but people who eat a lot of refined and processed foods, they can have a liver problem such as a fatty liver. Now, refined and processed foods are usually very high in carbohydrates such as sugar and refined flour, and they also contain processed polyunsaturated vegetable oils, which are really bad for the liver. Also, processed fats and oils are not good for the liver. These include margarine, canola oil, soybean oil, rice bran oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil, palm oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil. See, they're all heavily processed and are hard work for the liver. What you should do is choose the good oils, such as cold-pressed olive oil and coconut oil. Or you can use butter or ghee for cooking. That's much healthier than using processed oils for cooking. So choose the ghee or the butter or olive oil or coconut oil for cooking. Now, deep fried foods, you want to avoid them. The other thing you want to avoid is excess alcohol, so generally one standard drink a day is safe. The other thing to avoid is soft drinks such as sweet sodas and diet drinks that contain aspartame or ascorbate or these other chemical artificial sweeteners. So they're the kind of worst foods for your liver. Now let's talk about chemicals, because our environment has a lot of chemicals and we're not always aware that we need to protect ourselves. So harsh chemicals such as solvents, glues, pesticides and insecticides can damage your liver. It's much better to use a mosquito net or a fly swat. I've got a mosquito net and you really have a peaceful night, and those pesky little mosquitoes can't get you. If you must use chemicals, always protect yourself by wearing gloves and a mask. The other thing you want to avoid is exposure to the chemicals known as per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, abbreviated to PFAS, PFAS. Now, PFAS chemicals are some of the most harmful toxins ever created, and they're nicknamed forever chemicals because they never break down and they accumulate in our bodies, especially in the fatty parts of our body and in the liver. They've been proven to cause high blood pressure, particularly in middle-aged women. An interesting case history, I remember a middle-aged female patient of mine with uncontrollable and scary high blood pressure, even though she was taking 5 different blood pressure medications all at once. They weren't working. Her blood pressure was off the Richter scale. It was very, very dangerous. So I said to her, look, obviously the drugs are not working. I think we'll send you to a health retreat. And she did do a 2-week detox at the health retreat. And within 1 month, her blood pressure was normal. And she was only taking a low dose of 1 blood pressure medication. If the liver is overloaded with toxins, blood pressure is much harder to control. So these PFAS chemicals, known as polyfluoroalkyl substances, hard to say, just let's call them PFAS, they're everywhere. And they're used to prevent food sticking to pots and pans, to treat furniture, rugs, rain repellent, raincoats, some food wraps, paint, floor wax, and some shampoo. So they're hard to avoid. And there's a particular type of PFAS chemicals known as PFOA and PTFE, which are used in the manufacture of Teflon. And these are released into the air when Teflon cookware is heated to high temperatures. So if you use this kind of non-stick cookware, you'll be breathing in toxin fumes, and they'll also enter your food. And it's known that if you keep a pet bird in the kitchen while heating a non-stick pan to high temperatures, the bird can actually die because these toxic fumes are very dangerous to birds. The other thing, the inner lining of most air fryers contains PFAS chemicals. So how are we going to try and avoid these liver dangerous chemicals? Well, do not use Teflon or other non-stick cookware in your home. Stainless steel is the healthiest cooking surface. To prevent food from sticking, use a little water, olive oil, coconut oil, or animal fat. When purchasing furniture or carpet, do not have them treated to be stain resistant. Do not buy clothing that bears a Teflon label or indicates it has been treated for water, dirt, or stain repellency. Minimise the amount of packaged and fast food in your diet because often their containers are coated with PFAS chemicals to prevent the grease from soaking through the packaging. So PFAS chemicals are used in containers such as hot chip boxes, pizza boxes, and microwave popcorn bags. Do not heat food in a plastic container in a microwave oven. Don't buy personal care products that contain fluoro or perfluoro in the ingredients list. They're commonly found in nail polish, pressed powders, lotions, and shaving cream. So very important to protect ourselves from these chemicals because over the years they build up, they overload the liver, and as I said, some of them just can't be broken down even by the amazing liver. So the best thing is avoidance. The other thing we want to avoid are the toxins produced by various molds and fungi. These are known as mycotoxins. And the one that can be particularly liver toxic is known as aflatoxin. Now, aflatoxins are poisonous substances produced by some species of fungi, especially the species Aspergillus, and they need to be avoided as they're liver toxic. They can contaminate food crops and pose a serious health threat to humans and livestock. Indeed, chronic high exposure to aflatoxin may result in cirrhosis of the liver and liver cancer, what we call hepatocellular carcinoma, liver cancer, or gallbladder cancer. So they're very dangerous, these aflatoxins. There's aflatoxin B1, B2, G1 and G2 are particularly dangerous to humans and animals, and they've been found in all major food crops. Most human exposure comes from contaminated nuts and grains, and the meat of animals which are fed with contaminated feed. Now they can get into your body through your mouth, through ingestion, and you can also inhale them. The most common commodities contaminated with aflatoxins are cereal grains, peanuts, nuts, seed oils, spices, and condiments. And workers in feed mills or food processing facilities, poultry houses, grain storage facilities, and transportation operations, and textile workers can be exposed to airborne aflatoxins. So definitely want to avoid them. So carefully inspect whole grains and nuts for the presence of mould and discard any that look mouldy, discoloured, or shriveled. Buy grains and nuts as fresh as possible, that have been grown as close to home as possible and which have not been transported over a long time. Buy only reputable brands of nuts and nut butters because aflatoxin moulds are not entirely killed by processing or roasting, and they can show up in products such as peanut butter. Make sure that you store the foods properly away from moisture and heat, because they're conditions conducive to the growth of mould. And food that's really old, particularly nuts, you definitely don't want to consume. Another tip to reduce your exposure to toxic moulds is consume a diet that is varied or diverse. Helps to reduce the exposure to aflatoxins. And people who lack dietary diversity need to pay extra attention to minimise the risk of high exposure to aflatoxins. Also, you can be exposed to mould toxins from a mouldy, water-damaged building, and sometimes it's so bad that you really have to leave the property. Although ozone gas is a good way to kill mould in rooms, but you've got to have an ozone generator. Now, if you have been exposed to toxins from mould, fungi, and particularly aflatoxins, and you have a high body burden of aflatoxins, what can you do? Well, really, there's no drugs that can help you, but there are natural supplements that can. Particularly N-acetylcysteine, also known as NAC, NAC. You can also try binders, such as activated charcoal. A powerful liver formula, such as Livertone Plus. You can try antifungal drugs or antifungal supplements such as Bactoclear. And you can also try sauna therapy, because that will help to eliminate some of the mold toxins through the sweat. So it's very important to avoid these aflatoxins when you think that they can cause liver cancer and liver cirrhosis. As I said, we need to be liver aware, because our liver can be easily damaged, and it's already working hard 24/7 to protect us, so we need to minimise its exposure to harmful chemicals. So thanks for listening, and remember, we love to hear from you. If you have any more questions, email us from liverdoctor.com or sandracabot.com.